First off, I'd like to welcome everybody to this educational session about the SideOut Metastatic Breast Cancer Research Program and a little bit on precision medicine. First, I want to start off by doing some introductions and letting you know who's on the call on the Zoom today. First, we have Dr. Claudine Isaacs. She's the co-director of the Breast Cancer Program and medical director of the Jess and Mildred Fisher Center for Hereditary Cancer and Clinical Genomics Research at the Lombardi Comprehensive Cancer Center. And she is also the medical director for us here at the SideOut Foundation. Next, we have Gary. Oh, no, thanks for being here, Claudine.
Thank you.
Next, we have Gary Gregory, who is the CEO of Prothera. Prothera is the engine that powers this awesome new SideOut program. Gary, thanks for coming and being with us today.
Truly my pleasure.
Next, we have Dr. Chip Petricoin. He's the university professor for the School of Systems Biology, the co-director of the Center for Applied Proteomics and Molecular Medicine at George Mason University. And Chip's been a longtime friend of the foundation. Thanks for coming, Chip.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Dr. Marielena Parabon, Research Associate Professor for the Center for Applied Proteomics and Molecular Medicine. And she's been our main point person at George Mason for all the awesome SideOut clinical trials that we've done so far. So thanks for being here, Marielena.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so to get the discussion started, first I'd like to, we want to learn a little bit more about precision medicine. So we want to start off with the concept of precision medicine. So Chip, can you lead us off and teach us a little bit about precision medicine and how it's impacting cancer research today?
Absolutely. And in fact, the breast cancer field has kind of in some ways led the way for precision medicine historically. So it'd be great for everyone to realize that actually this tumor type in some ways has been the flag bearer for this concept. And really, it's a pretty common sense concept at the end of the day. And that is, years ago, not too long ago, clinicians like Dr. Isaacs would treat breast cancer in a fairly one-size-fits-all approach based upon, kind of historical knowledge about, what kind of cancers respond to which kind of drugs. But in the past, 10, 15 years, we've learned that, not surprisingly, perhaps in hindsight, that each patient's tumor is unique at the DNA level, at the genomic level, and what we found was that because of that, perhaps a one-size-fits-all approach to, treating cancers won't work. We had hints of this when, we would look under the microscope, and under the microscope, we may see, God, these two tumors look identical kind of under the microscope, but yet when the patients got the same drug, they, one patient did very well, another patient didn't do well. It's like, well, why is that? Well, the reason for it is at the DNA level, and we'll say even at the protein level in a second, because they're different, they actually respond differently. And why is that? That's because the drugs that breast cancer patients and most cancer patients get, the drugs work by going in and turning off or turning on, in some ways, a miswiring. If you think of it like a wiring diagram, these drugs work by turning off or turning on things that are unique to the patient, that are turned on when they shouldn't be or turned off when they should be. And the whole era of precision medicine is now about looking at the individual patient's tumor at the molecular level and finding out for that individual patient what's going wrong, and then tailoring a drug that fits that patient's specific tumor miswiring, if you will. And that really is the whole idea of precision medicine today. And breast cancer was one of the first tumor types that had drugs that specifically did this. And it led the way almost as a poster child for precision medicine, and now is continuing to lead the way.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Chip. That's awesome. It's a good starter for us. Now we're going to get into a little more meat and potatoes here. And now I'm going to pass the baton to Gary from Prothera. As I stated, Gary's company, Prothera, is the engine that's going to be driving the SideOut research program. So Gary, we have just launched this SideOut program. Can you tell us how it works and how it's going to help patients living with metastatic breast cancer?
Prothera is elated to be a part of SideOut's program, which is designed to achieve a number of key goals. The first is to advance the care and treatment of patients confronting metastatic breast cancer. The second is to not only advance their care, but to accelerate their enrollment in clinical trials. And we know that that has a dramatic impact on their overall outcomes and also advances research throughout the country and ultimately throughout the world. And the third is that each and every patient's data contributes to the world's most comprehensive database that SideOut endeavors to bring forward, and will certainly launch with this process where the contributions of every single patient impacts, in a de-identified manner, of course, impacts the overall research that is being done and led through this comprehensive research effort that is being driven by SideOut's dramatic leadership in the marketplace. The exciting thing about the process is that this is done in a seamless manner for the patient. The patient's physician or a patient approaching the program directly through Prothera is enrolled into the program by the molecular profiling that the doctor will order. In essence, the tests, the diagnostic tests that are needed. And what Prothera does in step one is bring all of that information, all of their various molecular profile tests and their past medical and treatment history, and we abstract, structure it, and run that through our computational engine. That's step two. And that computational engine has been built over nearly a decade of research. It features 50,000 heuristic rules and algorithms, machine learning and artificial intelligence, and it produces an initial set of ranked options for each patient. And those are precisely matched to the patient's medical position and their molecular profile. The third step, which is quite innovative, is that every single patient also benefits from a molecular tumor board that will review the patient's report, analysis, and therapies that are recommended. And these experts from across the country will polish the findings and produce step number 4, which is the Prothera analysis. And this Prothera analysis goes back to the physician and can also go back to the patient, and it provides precisely matched on-label, off-label, and clinical trials that can advance that individual patient's care. And what's exciting about that is it's been proven to advance patient outcomes and improve their overall survival and their progression-free survival. To our knowledge, we're the only platform that offers this kind of proven capabilities, and it's brought to each and every patient in the SideOut program. And the fifth step of the program is that we'll then follow each patient longitudinally and capture their progression. And that serves two purposes. Number one, it serves the patient if there's ever a recurrence or a therapy that doesn't work. We have their backstop in place and can provide an updated analysis, or the physician can go to the next line of therapy on the ranked options to advance their care. But we're here for them in this backstop through the SideOut program. And then the last element of this, step 5, is that as we capture outcomes, we then bring those outcomes back and provide them to researchers through SideOut and their most comprehensive database that they're developing to advance research and science throughout the world. So the steps, again, are a seamless ordering of the test, and we do the rest. That we'll capture all the data, we'll run it through our computational engine, we'll bring it to a molecular tumor board, we'll provide an analysis to the physician and also the patient, and last but not least, we capture all of these rich outcomes that can be utilized to advance science and medicine and research.
After they go through the process with Prothera and through the process of getting through their system, then we're going to have all of this interesting and valuable data. Okay. And that data is going to get passed on to Mary Elena at George Mason, and she will upload that data into our one-of-a-kind metastatic breast cancer biomarker database. So Mary Elena, can you tell us first, what is a biomarker? What a biomarker is, and then give us some background on our biomarker database and how it's going to help us and others learn more about metastatic breast cancer.
Sure. So what is a biomarker? A biomarker is some sort of an indicator that we like to use in medicine, and usually is an indicator that allows us to, for example, confirm the presence of a disease or to rule out the disease, or it helps us predict how the disease will behave. Or in our case, it can help us understand what type of treatment might be useful for a specific patient. And so since we're here with the SideOut Foundation and we all like volleyball, I like to make a little bit of an example of what a biomarker could be. So if we look at volleyball players, they might have different vertical leap, they might have different ability to move laterally, and all of those type of indicators or biomarkers are usually used by coaches around the world to decide which position they play in the field. And so similarly, in biology, we use DNA, protein, or other type of information to diagnose a disease, predict how the disease will develop, and also treat the disease. And so as part of the Partera work, as Gary was mentioning, we are collecting all of those molecular information from our metastatic breast cancer patients. And right now we have pretty much created an infrastructure that we call the Metastatic Breast Cancer Bioinformatics Portal, where all this information are centralized, collected, and connected between each other. And again, we have information about molecular data, we have information about a patient family history, the medical history, the type of treatment the patient has received, and then we follow our patient over time so that we can learn about how they respond to treatment and which treatment are more effective in the specific population. So why is this important for us from a scientific perspective? Because all the treatment that we are choosing today, they're based on the knowledge that we currently have on metastatic breast cancer, but there is so much more that we can learn about the biology of the disease and also how to treat the disease more effectively. And so now with this database, we have really created a infrastructure that will allow us to ask new research questions, to understand how different patients respond to treatment, which treatment might be more effective for this group of patients in specific. And as Rick mentioned, this database has really been a product of a very nice collaboration between the SideOut Foundation and George Mason University. And here, even at George Mason University, we had an internal collaboration between the College of Science, where Chip and I work, and the College of Health and Human Service that has a very nice health informatics center. So as you can say, really, we move science forward by bringing people with different backgrounds together and creating those new challenging projects. So, but I just want to briefly touch on why our database is so important and what makes this database so unique. So first is one of the few open access sources where physicians, scientists, researchers, health professionals around the world can really access this large number of information collected from metastatic breast cancer patients. There are other databases out there for cancer, but most of them either focus on primary tumor or different type of tumors. We are really collecting the science behind metastatic breast cancer, and we hope in the future to use this information to generate new ways to treat metastatic breast cancer more effectively, to predict how the disease will develop, and also to come up with new research questions or identify new areas where we should really focus our attention to make new progress in the metastatic breast cancer field.
Awesome. Mary Elena, thank you so much for all that you do for us, and thank you for that explanation. That's awesome. To close this out today, Dr. Isaacs, we would love to hear your insights on the potential of the SideOut Metastatic Breast Cancer Research Program and the impact it could have on cancer care and all the people living with metastatic breast cancer.
So first of all, I want to thank all of you for all that you're doing, because this is so important. What we are doing today is much better than what we were doing yesterday. So we are prolonging the lives of our patients with metastatic breast cancer, but we recognize we still have a long way to go. And I think as Chip started off saying that we have a one size fits all, I mean, we break things into some categories, but not into enough. So even if in breast cancer, which really has historically led the way, and not treating all breast cancers the same for the last 30, 40 years or so, we still, within these pockets that are large groups of people, we treat them more or less similarly. And we recognize that some people benefit from the treatments that we're giving them, but others don't. And what we really, really want to do is get more and more individualized. I want to sit as a medical oncologist, I want to sit across from a patient and say, based on the analysis of your tumor, what we know from all of these genomic assays that we can do, we think that you have a very high likelihood of responding to this treatment, but I won't do this treatment because the studies indicate that it won't work. So that's really what we're trying to get at. We're trying to think about, treating the right patient with the right drug at the right time is what we're trying to do. And the SideOut Foundation is really focused on offering that and in helping us gain that knowledge and also be able to offer it out in a much broader way. Often these resources are not available to all women across the country. There are lots of individuals who don't have access to what we're talking about. And what your group is doing, what SideOut is doing and is helping us do, is to offer this much more broadly across the country to populations that don't necessarily have access to that. And it's important, obviously, not only for that person, okay, so that person who is being offered the opportunity to get a deeper dive on the underlying characteristics of her tumor that can then influence the treatment choices that she and her doctor will make to improve her outlook. But we will also be able to learn from that so that the next generation, so that a couple of years down the line, we'll be able to learn something and do something even better then, and bring this to broader populations. And so it's so incredibly important, and we so appreciate what you're doing to help this.
Terrific. Well, thank you. Thank you to our awesome panel for coming out and supporting this little educational piece that we're going to share with our ambassadors. I'm sure our ambassadors are going to learn a ton about what SideOut is doing and a little bit about science and in the cancer field. We thank you again for being here today, and we thank all the people that are watching this, learning about the SideOut Metastatic Breast Cancer Research Program. We're very excited about it, and we look forward to sharing it with everyone. So thank you, everyone.
Terrific.
Thank
Great
you.
to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.